when you talk about bodies, I mean, it's hard to process. It's honestly hard to believe. But I go back to David Grush, the whistleblower who we interviewed here on News Nation, who is a high-level intelligence officer, had top security clearance. It's now been weeks. No one has discredited him. There are now official investigations in Congress. We had Senator Rubio just a few nights ago saying that other whistleblowers with firsthand knowledge of these kinds of incidents have come forward. I'm curious, Don, because you've been doing this a long time. Do you think this is a moment that we're in? I mean, do you think that we're actually going to start to get real concrete information from the government about this stuff?
My biggest regret when we worked with the late Congressman Stephen Schiff of New Mexico back in the early to mid-90s, when a good many of the first 10 witnesses were still with us here at Roswell. And we couldn't get Washington to pay any attention. And how unfortunate that all those witnesses are now long gone. And so we missed a golden opportunity, because Roswell's the one case, not only being the granddaddy of them all, the fact that it's beyond just a sighting or gun camera footage or a landing where it's something very fleeting. With Roswell, it's clearly a case of show us the bodies. And these witnesses are gone. So we're having to rely on the very arbiters of the cover-up, and that being the Pentagon, to now roll over and say, well, now we're going to finally cooperate, when they have been the ones that have been running out the clock, stalling for time all these decades. And I can't emphasize enough, we need to keep in mind that the Pentagon is up to 4 official explanations regarding Roswell. 4. I mean, none of us could get away with that in any other circumstances, but here, once again, the government, well, what do we expect? But we have to focus on where all the eyewitnesses have taken us, and they have taken us to that very first explanation, and that was that this was the recovery of an actual flying saucer.
Howdy.
Good evening.
I was actually doing something then. I ended up doing one of those sort of look ups of say, hi children, I didn't notice you there.
As long as you were picking your nose and eating it, you know.
No,
we
no.
nearly caught you last time.
I do pick my nose and eat it sometimes.
Yeah, well, you know,
it's good for you.
Protein.
Yeah.
Lee, we survived.
We did survive. Nobody killed us. We've got stories that we're not going to tell this evening. We're going to tell a different show.
Oh yeah, we
have tales. We have tales to tell, Oliver. Well, tales.
In there is 3 memory cards, like 128 gig, 32 gig, 128 gig, and there's currently one in the drive now transferring over, which is 200 and something gig.
Oh, so I'd hate to be the moron that has to go through that stuff.
Speaking of morons, Stu.
Good evening.
Are you doing
you're rough cutting that shit. I'm not fucking doing 400 gig.
No. To be fair, I think that Dave's transferred them just to keep them on separate memory cards. There's like the 2 that I've just done. There's like 30 gig on each of them. 8 gig on another. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I have 3 half-an-hour clips from the ghost hunt and various B-roll in the in the van from in the truck from traveling around.
When you went to Bucky's.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm a little bit concerned about the footage that I've just seen on one of them of me and you sleeping.
What?
Yeah.
Has Steve been busy?
There's gigabytes of it.
Oh, I didn't expect that.
He violated you and you just didn't know.
It's a camera that's in the ceiling.
They're not
I didn't
wanted to be
realise.
violated.
No. Roswell boys.
Yes.
We all know it. We've never done a show about Roswell.
We're back on that gravy train.
So?
I don't think we have.
I haven't. I mean, I'm the newbie, so I haven't done a show. I think we've talked about it in one of the shows that I was on, but I haven't.
You'll always get a nipple, but we've never actually explored it or anything like that. Don't think we're going to do that tonight because everybody knows Roswell. But it turns out that News Nation, the guys that got Grush on, and now they've got Don Schmidt on with David. What's his name? I've forgotten his name.
Who is that guy? The guy that was on with him?
Don Schmidt and the young guy's David. Oh, is it Ben? I don't know.
He looks
I'll
like
find out.
Who is he? Is he like a documentary guy, like a YouTube documentary?
I think he is. Yeah.
Right. Because I've seen him before, but I can't remember where.
Yeah. I mean, Don Schmidt. He's been like all over Roswell stuff and that. But the fact that they're saying there is a second crash site
all of a sudden as well, because I've never heard of this.
Well, it kind of rings a bell with me. Like I have heard about a second crash site, but
it
one
will
of these,
10 years ago.
Yeah, it must be about that actually, but I don't remember much about it.
See,
and it was in one of those documentaries that Jaime Maussan, you know, the Mexican dude, was on. I remember that much. I think you can get it on like Prime or something. I can't remember the name of it. So I kind of vaguely remember about a second crash site, but
so by second crash site, are they saying like a second incident or an impact point and then another travel and then a crash?
Yeah, no, I think it bounced.
Right.
It bounced and left some maybe debris, allegedly, because we don't know. I mean,
I think they're actually talking about a second crash site.
Are they?
A second. Well, I'm going to bring this up. I mean, this came out, I believe, 10 years ago. Exactly 10 years ago. I say exactly. It's just saying 10 years ago. That's the information.
Back if that's the case.
So it's not the first time this has been said, but this was like one of those things that just came flying through ufology and just left without making a dent. That's quite good for me. But yeah, this was News 13, I think it is, that it was on. So here we go.
Just when you thought you'd heard it all about the Roswell UFO incident, there's a new buzz making the rounds. This is something you've never heard before. News 13's Nancy Laughlin reports a retired...
I love the fact all American news looks like it was filmed in 1996.
One Roswell flying saucer crash, but two.
Is it urban legend or a huge government conspiracy? In 1947, something fell from the sky over Roswell. Something so bizarre, the U.S. Air Force issued a press release saying a flying disc had crashed. That, though, was quickly recanted. And alien or not, more than 6 decades later, the story lives on.
It was a vaulted area and not everybody could get in.
This week, the Huffington Post posted an interview with retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Richard French. He told the Post there was not one, but 2 crashes in New Mexico. French says he had nearly 3 decades of military service and worked on military intelligence. He says part of that included debunking UFO sightings, but now he says it's time to come forward. He claims one went down after being disabled by an electronic pulse-type weapon from an experimental U.S. airplane out of White Sands.
The second the pod came down, boom, instead of the rockets going out and knocking down the UFO, the airplane blew up.
The second, he says, went down days later. He's even written a book about it. But now the very elderly French has plenty of critics.
I'm very doubtful
David Thomas is the president of New Mexicans for Science and Reason. He doubts French's story.
It's not his observation that he was there when they, allegedly used an electromagnetic pulse to shoot down this UFO. It's a secondhand story.
And Thomas says the so-called experimental U.S. airplane that disabled the UFO didn't exist back then.
We certainly didn't have that kind of technology in 1947. I worked on some.
That's the bit so the explanation, when they're saying that we shot them down, I don't buy that. When I first heard about this, was actually what you sent us, Stu. That's when I first heard about this. But then I thought, it rings a bell, this second crash site. And I've not seen this particular news article, but I'd seen people talk about this, I think, in the early days of YouTube. Now, this being able to shoot down something that's coming from a different galaxy or universe, whatever, we've spoke about this many times. If it can get here, I'm pretty sure it's so advanced that we don't have the tech to be able to take it down. But I did think if there was a second one, then maybe something went wrong. Maybe there was a bit of a conflict between these two over something, and that's why they went down in Roswell. But I'm all about. I think people know my thoughts on the Roswell thing, and it involves Nazi Germany. But I don't buy the fact that we can shoot these down in the first place.
Have you got that clip that I put up on the chat earlier on in the Museum of Tarot guy that kind of goes into the whole Nazi Germany thing?
Is that the TikTok thing?
Yeah, because that's quite interesting. I'd never heard that before.
I will have to try and send that to a different thing because I have WhatsApp on the PC to bring.
Right. Would you want me to copy and paste it in?
You can, yeah. Pop it into the thing.
I shall try.
You reckon we'll be good to use that?
Oh yeah.
We'll give him a shout out. I've only just found this guy today. I think Lee sent the first one, then you sent the second one. It's pretty good.
Can I? For some reason, he follows me. He's like in his second channel. Because I actually messaged him and confirmed that it was him, and it was. Can I? I can upload a video while we're talking, can't I?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Okay. Give me a sec.
See, the thing I find weird about this all popping out now is timing does seem to be impeccable. If you were wanting trashy media to, because there's a multitude of things going on in the world right now. Just off the top of my head, Joe Biden is due to, if not being indicted, that the mainstream media seems to be paying no attention to. And a new video has come out which shows Hunter smoking crack driving at 175 miles an hour. And on top of that, France is fucking on fire. So there's a load of things that maybe you would want to just throw out into the media to take people's attention away from other things. I think Macron has just announced that they might be shutting French internet down to stop the spread of misinformation surrounding the current events over there. Wow. So I do wonder whether this is just the UFO drama being rolled out to help out again, or as I think is my main guess. I'm starting to think that ever since the Roswell incident and beyond, this has been a setup that's been going on for years. Like I shared a video with you guys before showing that, like, the Stephen Greer, Linda Moulton Howe, the who's who of
the Rockefeller,
UFOs being funded by Rockefeller, and having photographs like this, a big group photograph with Rockefeller and all of the best shills in the business.
That was the same guy that
Museum of Tarot guy, yeah.
what's he called? Museum of Tarot.
Museum of Tarot, and
yeah, I like that.
I believe he lives. He doesn't live far away from where we were. Actually, we should have thought of that earlier. But yeah, it seems odd. I don't know for what end, and I don't know if we're actually going to get the old like fake spaceships in the sky. But all this UFO stuff, I tend to believe now has been being planted. You know.
Whilst you find that, for anybody who hasn't seen, I only showed you mid clip at the beginning, but I was saving this. So this is what News Nation. This is I'll just show you the beginning. If you haven't seen this,
I want to start with you, Don, and dive right in. What can you tell us, Don, about this second debris field, where it is in proximity to the first debris field that was found, and if there's any new information involving the second debris field?
Well, it's actually a impact site. That's in fact what we call it. The remains of a egg-shaped pod about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, based on all the eyewitness accounts, including military and civilian, describe this location about 35 to 40 miles north of Roswell. And it's where this pod and its crew, a number of bodies, and a survivor, based on, again, first-hand testimony, were recovered back at the time of the incident.
Ben, when you go out to these sites, when you went out to this second debris field, as it's been called, I mean, what can you do now since it's been so long? How do the metal detectors work? Sort of walk us through the process when you and the other investigators go out there.
Well, it's actually been really exciting for us because I've been out now about 3 or 4 times to the site, which is near Corona. That's about 2.5 hours out from Roswell, the actual, what we call the debris field. The new site, though, like Don says, is kind of the impact site, which is only about 40 minutes outside the city. And we go out there, we try to systematically, see from Corona in towards town what kind of direction it may have been going, and therefore where we want to focus on the scope of the ground search. We had a backhoe, we had several people doing kind of grid searches. We don't even know if this material is metallic. So that's a big problem, right?
Just seems so like up in the air, doesn't it? Pardon the pun, but it like it's just where's the evidence coming from?
Exactly, it's perfect. It's the perfect story to keep the alien like UFO conversation going. The only purpose of this is to hammer home the idea that UFOs are aliens. That's
I don't care what anybody else says. That news presenter is Janosch from Ghostbusters 2. Sorry, Lee.
Yeah. Vigo.
He has got a touch about him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
I fucking loved Ghostbusters 2. One of the very few sequels that were better than the original.
It was great.
But yeah, it's just perfect. You don't need evidence for it because it's something that was so long ago. They can go and send all the fucking cleanup teams they want down there with all the metal detectors, and even in part of that, they turn around and say that oh well, we can send metal detectors down there, but we don't even know if we're looking for metal. So there's an instant disclaimer to why you're not going to find anything.
That's processing, guys. It won't be long.
Yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? But like I say, like you said the other week, Ollie, where you were saying the amount of things that had happened in that 1 week.
Yeah.
And I said you could have picked any month, and it's been like this now for months. This is just more of it, isn't it?
Just a bit, but is it a build up?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, it's a build up.
I think Stu's kicked himself by accident.
It's absolutely a build up, and when you look at the likes of what happened in
just dropped out.
What you call it, Las Vegas. You have these things that bubble up to the surface, are massive for a minute, then disappear, then are promptly replaced by something else. But it's all making UFOs like the popular and credible mainstream story.
News Nation's going in hard on it, though. I mean, they have literally had a UFO UAP story up every single day on their YouTube channel since the Grush thing.
Yeah, because
I guarantee that. Yeah,
nobody had heard of News Nation before the Grush interview.
I mean, it could be. It might be big in America. I don't know, but
no, it's a brand. I think it's out of Chicago or something. It's a brand new channel, pretty much. I picked up on them quite early because I quite like watching Chris Cuomo. He got fired from CNN for basically backing his brother on the whole COVID thing, and then obviously he's working at News Nation now, so that's why I picked up on it. But its viewership was even at that point quite small, but it's got bigger and bigger dramatically.
I mean, again, this is nothing against a news company that rolls with a story if they've got a story there, but maybe they've been picked for a reason. You know, let's use these guys for this narrative. You know, that's the thing. I mean, I don't think News Nation created Grush, or you know, I think they were very much picked out for some reason or another.
The Grush thing was shopped around by Chris Mellon and in turn David Coulthard.
Absolutely.
Not David, Ross Coulthard, the racing driver there. Sorry, Lee. But no, I think basically they shopped it around, and that's when the News Nation obviously thought, yeah, we'll roll with this and make it because it must be one of their first big exclusives that they've done. But they've definitely got traction on it. But it'll be a case of where's the proof in the pudding? You know, give us the evidence.
It's what I would do if I wanted to spread misinformation or like control a topic like UFOs, because if you look at in the US as Fox News and CNN as being your two biggest news stations, you have one of those. I think is so tarnished, like is like in the eyes of people that it's. I mean, CNN is basically a joke now.
So is Fox.
No, but only to one side. That's the thing. I think everybody kind of thinks CNN's bullshit, whereas at least Fox have still got that kind of base. The Fox News,
I'll give you that. Yeah,
because it's the numbers are still there for them. So if I was gonna try and push an idea forward, I would make a new mainstream media channel. So if you were to put in the same way as if I was going to do something now in the UK, I'd do it on GB News.
Yeah,
to put it forward. So and that kind of feels like what's been done here.
Look and see who's behind News Nation, because that's kind of curious.
Do we? I mean, are we on an agreement that we think something did happen, though, whether you think it was alien or not, in Roswell?
I don't know.
In 1947?
I've always been on the fence with Roswell, in terms of, like, the ufology community, in my view, it leans too heavily on it. It's like the start of things. And I think that basically there's more to it, but how can I put this? The clip that you're going to show in a little bit opened up a different thought train for me and brought in the whole Nazi thing, which I hadn't even considered before, which I know you're on board with, Ollie. So that kind of side of things kind of for me is interesting. And it comes across as more credible than the whole UFO thing. But who the hell knows? I mean, unless Grush, the whole disclosure thing really breaks open because of Grush. And
do you guys know the? I think it's early 70s. The Lonnie Zamora case.
Yeah,
is that the copper?
More than the name.
Yes, with the egg shape. Which,
in the middle of the road.
It was off the road, and it had two small beings that looked like they had spacesuits on. And this thing had actual landing gear, but this was an egg-shaped pod, which is exactly what.
Michael Stratt did a really good illustration of that with extra porta potties.
Yeah,
that's in fact what we call it. The remains of a egg-shaped pod about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
Which is exactly how that thing was described. So, I mean, that's one of the cases that I actually, I think what he may have witnessed was our tech, what those things were inside that egg-shaped pod, because that thing had proper landing gear and it left imprints. They went out to investigate, everything matched up. I think they saw scorch marks, everything.
Holy shit. I'm well wrong about News Nation. It looks like it's owned by Nexstar Media Group, whoever they are, wholly owned. It's been around for a long time in one shape or form, but only on a local level. It's been around since 1978 as WGN TV, but it got rebranded on the 1st of March 2021. So it's a couple of years old now, and it's rebranded, and that's when they went on a more sort of national cable route. So the actual core and roots of the channel have been around since just not long after I was born.
I'd be interested if to go back now and look at some of that and see what its news reporting was like through the pandemic.
Yeah.
See if it's if it's always been like if it got rebranded and all of a sudden became sort of a minor mouthpiece of the establishment. That'd be interesting to know. Interesting. I was listening to this afternoon. I'm only halfway through this podcast. I've never heard of this guy before. He's Uber Boyo on YouTube, and he does like a little like monologue podcast on his own for an hour, talking about Carl Jung's take on UFOs. Now, I'd never heard of this before, and I'm not massively up on Jung, but I know like lots of people that I quite like and I listen to a lot are big fans of his.
Heard the name, no, don't know a thing about him though.
Yeah, he was a philosopher,
right?
And
Jungian, right? Yeah, right.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Yep.
And the like he went very much down the road of this thing is happening to people when people report seeing things and meeting beings and being abducted and stuff. He said that he believed this thing's happening, but he didn't believe it was alien. He believed it was like there was like an interdimensional, if not like psychedelic element to it. And I implore anyone to go over and listen to that guy's podcast because it was really good. And I'd never heard of his channel before. He's got like 65,000 subscribers as well. So, but yeah, it was really good. But I that's where I tend to go with this now. The more I think about it, I kind of don't think maybe that these close encounters are actually things that are like physically happening to people in physical space, in like physical craft. Jung's.
So what do you think it is?
I think it's I think it's similar to like psychedelic experiences.
Right.
But and his oddly enough, the thing I've always brought up on this show about the America being discovered and the natives not being able to see the ships because they were so outside of their sphere of understanding, they didn't see them until they'd been shown and explained what they were. They just didn't recognize them as real. And Jung's take on abductions and close encounters was that you are being engaged with something that is so outside of the realm of what you believe is possible. Your mind invents things to try and explain it, and that I think it jives with I think it jives with that idea. But it also goes with the idea, like I've said for years, you know, because fucking me and Jung clearly like that. It goes with the thing I've been saying for years, that UFO shapes have changed with time and with style.
Absolutely, yeah.
But also, like my thing has been like when you hear the stories of like chariots of fire and stuff like that, I believe these people saw chariots on fire in the sky. I don't believe they were just using words to explain something that they couldn't explain. I think their minds were creating something that they could explain. So they were when we hear chariots of fire, that's a literal definition of what these people were seeing.
As in the mind
Filled the blanks in. Like when you see your dressing gown on the door at nighttime when it's dark, and you see like a 7-foot tall man waiting to kill you because there isn't enough information for you to make a decision. So what you do is you edge on the side of caution, so it's not a coat all of a sudden.
Do you remember that thing that I sent you and Dave that time, and I said this?
Yeah, it's not a penis, that mate. Yeah, sorry.
And it was right outside my door. We were talking about how weird. Like I was saying, some weird shit happened, and I said that this happened the other night, and I showed you a picture of it, and then like the next day, I found out it was just a folded towel on the door handle, and even you and Dave in the photograph were like, "Fucking hell, what the fuck's that?"
Yeah, it looked well weird. And see, that's the other thing you've got to do as well, because I'll be perfectly honest, Ollie, I really like the idea of like you getting sexually abused by a demon in your own house. I think that'd be fucking hilarious. So I'm gonna edge on the side of that being real at any opportunity I can.
Jennifer is so correct.
Yes, she is. Michael Stratt does need to show evidence behind it. I mean, Stephen Greer used Michael. Was Stephen Greer used Michael Stratt, wasn't it? Like, I'm pretty sure half of those drawings he's used a lot. He's used some AI on those drawings.
Oh, without a doubt, you nailed it on the head. Totally.
But, I mean, yeah,
and he hasn't even took too long on the prompt side of things.
I mean, I get the artist impression thing, but
it means nothing. I've got artist impressions of
exactly
Superman.
An artist impression as well. As an artist, you could say, well, this is what it looked like, blah blah blah, and then if you talk about aliens and UFOs, your mind's gonna start. Unless you are trained, how do I put it? Like you work in, you work for the government, military, what high up, and you have the ability to be able to take everything that's in there and put it aside when it comes to imagination, and you could just stick with factually what's being said. I think you get, but yeah, there was a lot of AI as well used in that, which I think most of the stuff that was put in there was AI generated.
Yeah.
Don't know if Stephen knew that. I don't think so. I don't think Stephen knew that, though.
I don't think Stephen cared.
I agree with you.
I could have done it for him for probably half the price. So yeah. Back to the Roswell thing, though. It's funny that you sent us this today, Stu, because I've said, I think, for quite a few years now that I think whatever crashed in Roswell was the Nazis.
Yeah.
So
roll the tape.
Do you think he's going to mind us playing this?
Nah.
No. Well, he knows you. He knows you.
Well, I wouldn't say he knows me. He just follows me back. But
go on, Stu, give him a shout out before I hit it, so people can go subscribe and check him out.
Tarot on TikTok. Go and follow him.
Awesome.
He's actually got some good stuff up on his channel.
He has got some good stuff.
It's one of my favorite TikTok channels. One of my favorites.
I've only just found it out today.
Mm-hmm.
For over 70 years, the world has speculated what happened in Roswell, New Mexico that night.
Yeah, whatever. I think it's time to finally clear up all this stupid Roswell shit. If you stick with me for the next 5 minutes, you'll see a lot of secrets, and know more about the subject than just about anybody else. To understand Roswell, you need to understand the end of World War II. As the Allies advanced through Europe, they started to find secret German aircraft in the facilities they were capturing. The Americans also captured German test pilots. Many of these Luftwaffe pilots were sent to the American concentration camp, POW camp for Germans, at Fort Bliss in Texas. These Luftwaffe pilots were given a deal. Their family would be given amnesty if they worked with the Americans in a group called Watson's Wizards. At the end of the war, this group of pilots was sent throughout Europe to take the German secret aircraft that were captured and fly them back to Cherbourg, France, where they were loaded onto an aircraft carrier called the HMS Reaper and brought to New Jersey. This was an early part of Operation Paperclip, where they brought over German scientists and gave them lives here in America so they could build our military-industrial complex. Specifically, this was called Operation Lusty for Luftwaffe Secret Technology, and the naval portion of it was called Operation Seahorse. The Americans took German secret experimental aircraft, test pilots, and scientists, brought them over, and then spread them throughout the country to various military bases and test facilities. A lot of the test pilots and secret aircraft went to what became Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, which figures very prominently in UFO lore. But I think the most interesting planes that made it over and then disappeared were the Horton Flying Wings. These flying wings, built by the Horton brothers starting in the 1930s, could blow the doors off anything that we had. This is a document you can go read on the CIA's archive called German High-Speed Airplanes and Design Developments from August of 1945. This document lists the specifications for a Horton HO-229, which was a jet-powered version of this aircraft, and we know that at least one functioning example of this craft was brought over during Operation Seahorse. The speed is listed at 590 miles an hour, while the fastest thing that we had was a P-51 Mustang that could top out around 450. And the ceiling, the elevation that this plane could fly, was 52,500 feet, while everything else topped out around 40,000. So basically, this jet-powered flying wing was 25% faster and higher than anything we had in the skies. This is where things get interesting and relevant to the Roswell incident. The working version of the Horton Flying Wings disappeared, but we do know that the group that they were given to study and back engineer was Northrop. See, the guy that ran Northrop, Jack Northrop, had been a fanboy of the Horton brothers since the 1930s, when he was trying to develop and back engineer his own version of the Horton Flying Wings that they had brought out years earlier. At the same time that Jack Northrop was getting his hands on some of that sweet German tech, we know that Wernher von Braun was starting up our rocketry program, which later became NASA, at White Sands in New Mexico. And we know that the German scientists and test pilots were being congregated around various facilities and military installations to keep them away from the public, and one of these clusters was White Sands. Within the White Sands Proving Grounds, there is a facility called the Northrop Strip. This airstrip was mysteriously built in the 1940s and kept off maps until the 1960s, and the backstory of it is sus as fuck. In this interesting article from the Holloman Air Force Base official website, it states that the Northrop Strip was used by Northrop Aviation in the 1940s to test military target drones. And in 1976, NASA selected the Strip as the site for its shuttle pilot training. The craziest anomaly here is that this unknown Army airfield had some of, if not the longest runways in the world. This website by an aviation historian states that the Northrop Strip wasn't even being shown on aviation sectional charts in 1961, that the earliest time it shows up is the June 1965 Roswell sectional chart, and that the airfield is noted as having a 32,000-foot-long unpaved runway. That is a 6-mile-long runway. As a point of reference, the SR-71 Blackbird spy plane that held all the altitude and speed records flew out of Beale Air Force Base off a 2.2-mile-long runway. People that are familiar with the infamous Area 51, it's often touted as having the world's longest runway, and that runway is also 6 miles long. So I'll ask you, what the hell were they flying in the 1940s that required a 6-mile-long airstrip? Oh, and it doesn't have just one airstrip, it has two. One goes north-south and the other goes east-west. Most plane crashes occur during the takeoff or landing stages of a flight, and when you see where the east-west runway from this airfield is pointed, it'll all click. As we pull out on the map of the Northrop Strip, we see that 100 miles away in a direct straight line is the location of the Roswell crash. It would make sense to me that if you were testing an experimental aircraft that went around 600 miles an hour and you took off from that airstrip and something went wrong in 10 to 15 minutes, you would crash in that general location. So let's take a look.
We'll leave the rest for people to go check him out. So that is Museum of Tarot. And I've only just delved deep today and there's loads of stuff there. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
If you,
I mean, feels pretty
watch
nailed.
The whole thing, it's pretty convincing.
I mean, even up to that point, that's pretty convincing to me. Like, you know,
that makes more sense to me than anything else that's ever come out of Roswell. And
just the picture of that flying wing thing. When you look at the did he say that was it the Hornet that was the their most advanced thing? What did he say was their most advanced aircraft?
The Mustang.
Mustang.
The US had the P-51 Mustang. That's the one that you see Tom Cruise in Top Gun 2.
Yeah. So, like, compared to that, that looks like a flying saucer.
Well, you imagine if that thing crashed, right, and it ripped off like the majority of the wing superstructure. You've pretty much got a flying saucer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I totally, I'm less skeptical of that than I am of the Roswell story.
See, I used to always like believe the things that people would say. So, yeah, well, we couldn't create it now. We don't have the technology to do it now. No, you don't know if we've got the technology to do it now, because realistically, on the aviation side of things, what we have that's rolled out to us, there hasn't been and space exploration. There doesn't seem to be a great development compared to all the other technologies we have. You know, you've gone from the in the same time as that, you've gone from having a pad which you can write notes down onto to a piece of glass phone which has all of the information and human history on it that you can access at any point in time. You know, we've had such massive jumps in other technologies that it only makes sense to me that we've got huge jumps in aviation technology that's simply being kept because there's no reason to use it. You like unless there's like some sort of global conflict. Why would you want to? You know, like America have been like dishing out some freedom, you know, over the past few decades, but there's only been like that. The small issue of like a few human casualties here and there. As a country, it's never actually been in any danger. So you wouldn't pull your best toys out unless you were actually in danger.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, definitely, I would say, and this kind of leads back to the whole Grush thing as well. I said this last night, I listened to Ross Coulthard. I still want to call him David Coulthard, but anyway, Ross Coulthard last night, and the theory of just Dave, and the theory of everything, Kurt's channel, and Ross is becoming a little bit more credible to me than he was when he was doing the interview with the guy, because of what he's now saying, the stuff that's like between the lines. He seems to be clued in a lot of different things that he just can't even talk about, you know, because people want to be protected sources. It's all off the record and things like that, and he alludes to a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what's happening with Grush, but it definitely appears to me now that a good proportion of the Pentagon and even the White House do know when this stuff leaked. You know, he's now saying that, like, I don't know if it's Northrop or Lockheed, but one of the companies is basically getting rid of their crafts and passing it on to somebody else, trying to flog it off technology because they don't want to have anything to do with it, because they know if it does come out, it will damage their reputations.
What's interesting is that they're talking about a second crash site, and it's kind of bringing it all back to history. And I think I've still got still got the clip here. You
say it's a 90-year cover-up.
Just about, yeah.
90 years.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy. They recovered a partially intact vehicle.
It's long been known that the regime of dictator Benito Mussolini documented numerous UAP during this time. This internal memo from the Italian Secret Services includes crude drawings of the UAPs.
It's true. It's real. Yeah, that actually happened. The Italian government moved it to a secure air base in Italy for the rest of kind of the fascist regime until 1944, 1945. And, you know, the Pope Pius XII back-channeled that.
So the Vatican was involved?
Yeah, and told the Americans what the Italians had, and we ended up scooping it.
So let me be very clear about this. You're saying that the Catholic Church, the Vatican, they know about the existence of non-human intelligence on this planet?
Certainly.
So they had it from 1933, and then what did they say happened in 1944
The
to
Italians,
1945?
yeah, the Italians basically
Just before the Roswell incident, which was 1947.
I mean, here's a bit of a hypothesis. What if the fastest aircraft in the Americans have access to is one of those Horton flying wings, because it's 25% faster than goes higher, and let's say they get the Italian Magenta spacecraft back to the US and manage to get it flying again. You're obviously going to put with it something that's equally as fast or as close to being as fast as it can be. In the same way that when the SR-71 used to fly about, it was escorted by whatever, planes, whether it was the F-4 Phantom or the F-15 or F-18 or whatever, but it was the fastest plane available to the military at that point to accompany the SR-71. And even at that, it was slow. So you could imagine if they're testing out some kind of spacecraft thing, maybe it was a spacecraft after all, and the two of them collided. That might be your two crash sites. One is, Roswell with the actual spacecraft, which turns out to be this thing from Italy back in the 30s. And the second crash site happens to be potentially a Horton flying wing. Stranger things have happened.
Well, yeah, a few months ago, we had 4 things shot down over the US.
Yeah.
I suppose that, but again, it's 4 things shot down with no evidence whatsoever.
We saw a little bit of metal.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, we did allegedly.
So let's go with the idea then that something happened and there was some sort of experimental aircraft that crashed in Roswell. So there was some sort of incident, because realistically, regardless of what it was, something happened, because there was people there that were outside of just outside of the military that saw things, so there had to be some foundation to the rumor for it to happen.
100%, there's definitely a foundation there, mate. 100%.
Yeah, I think looking back at the Grush interview, I also think it's weird, because I just remembered when he was talking about the Italy stuff. He talked about that and then wouldn't talk about Roswell, because he said Roswell's still classified. I find that really interesting now that the same news channel has just put another story out about Roswell, because now in hindsight, he was planting a seed to talk about Roswell again.
That's interesting.
All roads definitely seem to head back to Roswell now.
Yeah. So the big question then is not what happened. The question, like all of this, is why is the news wanting my mum and dad to think these things are aliens?
And my mum and dad, not just yours.
Okay, sorry. Our mums and dads. And probably uncles.
It would be weird if it was just your mum and dad.
It would be, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's just like, Jeff, Andrea, fucking believe in the UFOs. But yeah, that's my thing. Like, why all of a sudden do they want us to believe in aliens? Like, the minute they want me to start believing in aliens is the minute I stopped.
That's so true.
I'm more skeptical now than I've ever been, like being on this channel and talking to you guys. I was definitely, I was on the Stephen Greer train for a while, believed what he was saying. Everything was just like Bob Lazar, all that kind of stuff, and it's like, I'm blowing everything away now, I just don't believe anything.
I loved Greer. I just
that's
thought
our
this
problem.
Yeah, I loved it.
What's that? Sorry, Lee?
Maybe that's our problem. Maybe we've we're so fucking jaded and like middle-aged that like 20 years ago, if Lee had been confronted with this, like he'd have been on fucking Reddit and above top secret every 10 minutes checking if anyone else had said something new. Now it's like, yeah, well, it's clearly bullshit, isn't it?
I stuck a link out to on the chat, which you can put up on the channel later in the comments. The Corridor Crew guys they specialize in like special effects, VFX stuff, and talking about that. But they also periodically debunk UFO videos, and they
I watched it. I watched it when I was on the toilet. Yeah,
they literally just spent like 15 minutes debunking a good proportion of the UFO stuff that's Corbell's released in the last little while, saying, "Oh, it's a balloon, it's a balloon, it's a balloon." You know, and they're giving really good information and evidence to why they think it's like that. You know, which I find fascinating.
So we talk. So we've got explanations to what we think may have been the craft. Doesn't explain the bodies.
No, well, that's Horizon 10 just put that, saying Sergeant Melvin E. Brown saw alien bodies near the robot Roswell crash in 1947. But again, there's no fucking evidence of that.
Yeah, you've just got first and second hand accounts that have long since passed away.
Yeah,
and also if it's coming from military, you know, you love your country. But one moment you're putting out in the newspapers, we've got a flying saucer. The next day you're retracting the whole thing. It's a weather balloon. I just think maybe you may get told to say certain things.
Yeah.
You know, muddying the water with aliens is probably a good thing to do.
Probably. I mean, I don't know if either of you had the misfortune to read what was it like Roswell Explained or something like that. There was a woman wrote a book about it in mid 2000s, I think it was, where she blamed it on like Russian test dummies, I think, high altitude Russian test
Oh
dummies.
yeah, I've heard that before.
And it was a terrible book. Like it was just fucking nonsense, to be perfectly honest. But there's no reason why these two things why that couldn't accidentally have a bit of truth in it. Like if there was some sort of like biological crash test dummies that would put in something, you know, to like for the test flight. You know, maybe it didn't have like live pilots in it or something like that. Maybe it was designed to take off and come back down within the grounds of Area 51, and it just went a bit further.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the interview with the guy that does what type of job is it called, where you like do formaldehyde and all that with bodies and you pump them full of shit and
taxidermy?
Yeah, the interview with the taxidermy guy that got the phone calls from the military.
Oh, is he not a funeral director?
It could have been.
Yeah.
Maybe he was a funeral director. Yeah,
I think he was a funeral director because he was asked to bring
Can we just talk about how fucking retarded the idea of this is? The idea that they've got fucking alien bodies. What are we going to do with the alien bodies? Well, we have to give them a proper burial, Jeff. You know, how fucking stupid. That clearly didn't happen.
No. He didn't. They didn't get in touch with him for that.
They ordered small coffins, didn't they? He was asked to make small coffins,
or bring small coffins, or whatever.
And they were asked to. They were asked about preserving like badly damaged tissue that had the elements hit it.
And there's not a single like military
mortician. That's the word you're looking for.
Yeah.
Mortician.
But there's not a single like military doctor that could have handled this in house.
Well, that is again, it's a big red flag.
Yeah, it's fucking lies. That's why that guy has seen this story and thought, I've got a great idea.
So do you think? So here, this is the interesting thing here. Do you think whatever they did with this story? Let's just say it was German tech that crashed.
Mm-hmm.
They made a cover up, and one of the actual cover up was making people in the future always look at this as aliens. Do you think they knew that people around the area would try and monopolize on it. They would get that they'd want their story out. People would make shit up that would cover their ass.
Yeah, but Chinese whispers is a thing. Like, you know, I'm not. Can you call it that now? Does it need a new name? Chinese whispers feels like something that could get you cancelled.
Call it generic whisper.
Generic.
Men in black whispers.
Humanoid whispers.
Yeah. Okay. Of ethnic origins. The idea that was your social media of the time. Your social media of the time was the postman going on his rounds, speaking to Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Johnson going to the post office, and then the owner of the post office going to the bar later on. And it went from a plane crash to a fucking experimental plane crash to a flying saucer plane crash to fucking Mork and Mindy landed. You know, I can easily see how that perpetuates in a world where if there's something that the internet does really well, and we see it with the Corbell stuff now too. The internet shuts nonsense down really quickly. It can perpetuate it, don't get me wrong, but if you imagine the Las Vegas alien thing happened, and that had happened like in a pre-internet day, where that was reported on the news, and then people spoke about it. Can you imagine what the story of that would have become in like
it would have evolved to
2 years' time? Yeah.
What I'm thinking now is, if let's say your Museum of Tarot guy's story of the Nazis is more credible, then that explains why the Roswell thing is still classified, because you can draw a direct link from a Horton Flying Wing to a B-2 Spirit Bomber to the B-21 that they just released last year. It's all part of the same history in terms of tech. So it's kind of interesting that, you know, possibly there is potentially still debris out there of a Horton Flying Wing.
Yeah. Also the war had ended.
Yeah.
You know, so why would a Nazi plane?
Well, let's be honest here. It would be Nazi technology. It wouldn't be a Nazi plane at that point. At that point, it's US technology.
Oh, they'll have spray painted it with a stars and stripes on it, no problem. But it's still German tech.
Yeah.
Can I make you wonder?
It does. Media Mongol said he doesn't like how Jesse Marcel's people downplay Jesse Marcel, saying he got confused when he was a lieutenant colonel and administrator in the 905th first unit with nukes. He was highly skilled, and that's one thing I will say about that story is that guy looks so fucking pissed off in, you know, when he had to hold the pieces of balloon up.
He was a major at the point of that photo was taken, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then he got promoted, because that's how they kind of bought him off. He got a promotion afterwards.
Yeah.
And a pay bump, obviously. But yeah, he does not look happy. He was. No. You can see that he was biting his lip on that one.
I suppose the only other thing
interview with him like a few years later, like
there was something. Yeah.
When did he die?
Late 60s, maybe. I mean, his son's been interviewed.
I think it was his son. Yeah, I think it was
his son.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm.
Because is he not Jesse Marcel Jr.? Same name.
Yeah. That's Jesse Marcel Jr. is always the one I remember in the interviews. I don't think there was ever a Jesse Marcel interview.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. But I've just realized this could be our grift after doing the ghost hunt in Nashville. Is we will just get a Ouija board and a magnet under the desk. I probably shouldn't say this online. It might be harder to get away with.
They don't watch this. There's only the live people watch this.
Right. Okay. Cool. You guys say anything, and we will cut all of you in on the super chats. and we will just pretend to like channel old UFO people. Like we'll get Stanton Friedman on the podcast.
I was going to say, bring back Stan, bring back Stan.
He had so much to do with the Roswell like research.
Yeah,
like, he was massively
went
into
deep
it.
on that. Yeah.
I always found it weird how, you know, it's with him, like his big sticking point was the Lazar thing. You know, he went after the Lazar thing big time. I think he was right to do so. And then in the same breath, he was fully on board with the Majestic 12 stuff, which looked pretty debunked.
I think there's a grain of truth in the Majestic 12 stuff. But
I think there might be a grain of truth, but I don't think.
I don't think it's what it. Yeah, I don't think there is what they make it out to be.
I suppose the interesting thing with the Roswell thing, it was when the people cleaned up the papers the person was holding in the photograph, because they referred to flying discs, didn't they? In the in that, so that's always there. I'm so confused by all this stuff now, like so confused, because I really don't know what to believe.
Well, as I say, after watching that TikTok, I'm more leaning towards that being truthful. I need to actually have a look on Google
that makes
Earth.
more sense. Yeah.
I've never actually looked at the Northrop Strip, because it must obviously still be there.
But hang about a second. Are you guys thinking that we were using the Nazi tech and testing it?
Yeah.
Over Area 51. So what I'm saying,
well, that kind of just quickly, just to get that clarified, that was absolutely happening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because if you have Project Paperclip and you dished out those scientists, some of those people weren't there. So yeah, Nazi technology was definitely being tested there.
So,
but it wasn't just aircraft technology; it was submarine technology. It was all sorts of things that they brought over.
So my view on it,
got to give them the Jews
back then, was, I think it was a few years ago that I mentioned this on one of the old shows. I said, what if the Nazis, they made us think we won, and they were still in operation, and they had whatever aircraft it was, and they were spying on this new base. We saw the shit. We shot this shit down. That thing crashed, and they thought it was a flying saucer, and immediately reported it as a flying saucer until they realized it was Nazi tech and said, the world cannot know that the Nazis are still at it. We need to cover this up. We need to keep this quiet.
That goes down the roads of almost a fucking Iron Sky scenario where
it also kind of Hail Hydra, Red Skull, all that kind of nonsense.
But that was my viewpoint back then on that, and
yeah,
I think you could. I think there is. If I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd say that no, absolutely not. No.
I mean, I don't think Hitler died at the bunker. I think he got taken to Argentina.
Yeah. I think this the guy that went hunt for Hitler, like if you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast that he did, it might as well be fucking historical fact now that happened. It's stupid, to be perfectly honest. When you look at the German war machine, if you don't believe that they had a plan B to get their leader out and his confidants, I don't understand. I don't understand what you're doing. You know, America always talk about if something goes really wrong, continuity of government. It's why they've got Air Force One. It's why they've got underground bases to take people to.
Yeah.
The idea that Nazi Germany wouldn't have some sort of contingency plan to keep continuity of government is ridiculous. You know, it's just stupid. I mean, if I was going to write a completely fictitious story that obviously wouldn't get this podcast into trouble, if there was any way that the Nazis carried on, I would suggest that maybe they were brought in and had far more influence on the US and therefore the Western world than the original Project Paperclip thought they would do. And over
I think you can pretty faithfully say, if you actually look back at the Germans that came across in Project Paperclip over the years, they've definitely had more influence in the geopolitical position that the US
intended.
has. Yeah. Than ever intended. In some ways, I mean, they definitely lost the war, the Germans, but in some ways, by being captured, and then some of them went to Russia, some of them went to the US. They managed to survive, and as I say, I'm pretty positive that Hitler, had a nice wee retirement home somewhere in Argentina and lived his life out to the sort of late 50s, early 60s, or whatever it was. That makes sense to me, and plus the body that they supposedly had that Russia took was a woman. It was genetically tested as a woman.
Yeah.
So they had two females. So it could still have been Eva Braun, but more likely she ended up with them in Argentina as well.
And the idea that the bunker was blown up. I've been to where the bunker is in God, give me the city. Fuck. Where's my words gone? Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And it's just a car park now. Like it's literally a car park for a hotel. And there is a pretty nondescript, board up in the basically hiding where you buy your tickets, your parking tickets.
Yeah.
And it explains that what the layout of the bunker was, where Hitler where it would have been in relation to the car park situation. Everything else that in that city that can be, I wouldn't say maintained, but that can be used as a tourist attraction to remind people of what went on. You've still essentially got Checkpoint Charlie sat there fucking working
the
away.
Brandenburg Gate and all that good stuff.
The idea that site wouldn't have been excavated is really weird to me. Really weird.
It is.
Because there's all as you walk towards the Holocaust Museum, there's it's been excavated into the ground, all the shower cubicles and sleeping quarters and stuff like that. That's all what would be subterranean. It's under the level of where the city is now.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why that wouldn't be something that would be kept, or at least made more. Like I say, even if it was destroyed to the point where you couldn't do it, recreated or in some.
Do you not think the German population on the whole have still got a reasonable amount of shame over the war?
You haven't spoke to enough Germans.
I really haven't. I didn't know no German whatsoever.
No, I think there is.
In fact, that being said, I tell a lie. I once photographed, quick side story, a castle down by Girvan called Colochen Castle, and the woman who had the castle, her name was Viola Hallman, and I had to photograph the castle over the year, different seasons, blah blah blah. And one of the days I went to get a check for the previous month's work or whatever, the husband wrote me the check, and they had an account with the Royal Bank in Girvan, so that was how we got paid. But obviously, they had money all over the world. They were very, very rich, and he took me into this secret room in the castle. It was literally press a button in this bookcase. It was like something like Batman. And I went into this room with him, and I kid you not, it was floor to ceiling with SS Nazi memorabilia and him in photos, younger. He was a fucking SS officer.
Crazy.
And it was, I mean, God, I mean, whether he was caught or he did prison time or whatever, or he wasn't, you know, he caught or whatever, but it just, I looked around with my, I mean, I think he realized what he'd done once he saw my eyes, because my jaw had hit the floor and my eyes were wide open. Just could not believe the stuff that, you know, Nazi flags tacked to the wall, and it was crazy.
When I was in Germany, I thought, where was I? I've been to a few different places in Germany. I think this wasn't Dusseldorf.
We got a lot of German subscribers as well.
Yeah. I love Germany. Germany is
beautiful country.
Beautiful, great country. And I really like Germans in general. I think they like that. They're
like German sausage.
Everyone tries to pretend that they've got no sense of humor.
I like Hockenheim.
Hilarious. Hockenheim's great. I've been to Hockenheim and Nürburgring.
Never been to Nürburgring, but I've been to Hockenheim.
Yeah, Nürburgring's great. But the terrible place to go watch Formula One race, though. You've got to stay in your section. You can't walk around the track. Very
the tracks. I mean, the track literally goes through a bloody forest at Hockenheim.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just great. The whole thing.
Another quick story. Digress. There's a famous clip of Mika Hakkinen, his car breaking down and him having a temper tantrum and throwing his gloves and his helmet away. I was the little photographer that was photographing him because he crashed right in front of me.
No way.
Yep,
that's amazing. I remember watching that. Because he nearly lost the world championship, didn't he? Because of that, because
something like that. Basically, when I used to go out and work with MPICs and that, I effectively was like a film runner. I used to make sure all the guys had their film. I used to take the stuff that had been shot back to get processed. There was a full-time sort of Fuji laboratory there that you could get your next dev, blah, blah, blah. But it got to a point in the race whereby I was allowed to go to a point in the track, and this was the arse end of nowhere, you know, that the boss had said, oh, you can go and photograph there if you want. And there's a camera and a lens, go for it. And literally he crashed in front of me. So I went from an afterthought to, what did you get? We want the footage. That was good. That was one of the few times. But no, it's like on an old BBC clip. You can see me sort of panicking and snapping away.
No, I was just going to say I was in a shop in Germany, because obviously you're not. It's illegal to have swastikas, I think, isn't it, in Germany? And there was a bag there, like this tarp bag, and I didn't clock it. It was my mate clocked it. He said, just look at the stitch really closely. And the stitching was swastikas, the way it was stitched. It was really like, it's there if you look hard enough. I'm not saying it's like mainstream. I'm not by any stretch of it. In fact, the first ever as in like genuine anti-fascist march, not the sort of Antifa stuff you see now. I saw was when I was in Frankfurt. There was an anti-fascist march in Frankfurt. But what I was going to say about the Nazi influence maybe being bigger than the West first hoped for is that maybe it really took hold, and then maybe that sort of branched off into some sort of world forum of an economic variety. Because if there might be this guy called Klaus that's around, that's quite popular at the moment. Look into his father,
right?
Because his father was a high-ranking SS officer.
We spoke about that a little bit on our other channel.
I was going to say that this needs to be really a deep dive Rockfin show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's as close to the bone as I think you can get on YouTube. Like,
yeah,
and a lot more to come on that channel.
Nearly 200 subscribers on Rockfin as well. We haven't put anything up because we've been away, so that's the Rockfin numbers have gone really well so far.
How many do we have? 2 exclusives on there? One.
I think we've got 3 exclusives on there.
Oh,
maybe 2. Maybe 2 or 3. It's definitely over 1, maybe 3. And we'll be doing another one this week. And hopefully, get the numbers up to the point, and we'll start doing the exclusives live.
So see the vacation videos that you've got for me to edit. Is some of it gone up on Rockfin because of what Dave did to you?
Dave didn't do it to us.
Or was it his friends?
It was his friends, yeah. Yeah, I'm still sore. No, I think a lot of it we can actually put up on YouTube. To be fair, there's some of the stories that we've got will probably go on Rockfin. Because it's not.
I'm looking forward to one of Lee's stories.
Yeah,
Ollie has something on along the same lines.
God.
Yeah. Very similar trips we had in America.
Spoiler: I might be a shaman.
Probably the most bizarre experience of my life. What about you, Lee?
Yeah. So it was definitely the most interesting because I think I've spoke about something similar to this on this channel, and that was pretty bizarre too. So yeah, it's there.
But yeah, we've got footage to put up. We've got the full. You saw a live in the prison. Nothing happened on the live stuff. Lee and Dave told me off and said, "Stop going live. It's spoiling it." Which I think, looking back at it now, that's kind of like the last live we did. We did a quick live before we went up in that prison, and then we turned it off, and then we.
The ghosties not like the camera shy.
I don't know if the ghosts are, but what I will say is, I definitely believe there's something in those type of places.
Tell you something, Dave's just an out-and-out Ghostbuster with that tech he's got. Holy Nick!
Oh, we had all the gear. It was great. Yeah,
the gear works as well.
Right up.
So see the Xbox thing. Is that like a LiDAR type?
That picks up that. So
yeah.
The Kinect picks up humans as stickmen. So yeah, like
it's essentially LiDAR because it covers the room in small dots, doesn't it? And then well, one of the interests because we did pick some stuff up.
There was three of us in there, but there was 4.
I don't want to spoil anything because I want us to put it out and use it on the channel, and I want people to sort of experience it fresh. Like we were doing at the time.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer in ghosts. I've never believed in ghosts. I've watched loads of the stuff. I used to watch a bit of the Taps one. I was a big fan of Paranormal State because me and my ex-girlfriend found Paranormal State when it was like 4 or 5 seasons in. We'd never heard of it, and we basically waxed every episode over a weekend. Without leaving my flat, and we got ourselves to the point where we were so drunk and terrified that we wouldn't go to the toilet on our own. I would say we have better and more. I don't want to say evidence, but stuff that happened to us. I suppose it's evidence. Than I have ever seen on any of those TV shows. I was fucking shocked.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Save it for
shocked by what we came out with. I mean, we're like just it won't spoil it. Like the LiDAR thing had stuff come up. The spirit box, context relevant speech out of a spirit box.
Jeez.
Context relevant
that made sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like direct instructions to me to do something. It was fucking crazy.
So what you're telling me is I've got to edit this with the lights on.
Yes. I'm not I promise you I'm not over exaggerating. So, like some of the things that happened on that thing, like I mean, don't get me wrong, none of us were like bummed by an alien or got scratches on our back.
Speak for yourself.
But, in the tools that we had, it was weird. Like it was definitely weird, and it made me. I don't know. I still don't believe in disembodied spirits from people. I don't believe. And this is definitely going to be something we can speak about on Rockfin. I don't believe you have a choice when your soul leaves your body. I think it's very much in the hands of something else. So I don't think people can just decide, I'm just going to stay in this phone box forever. Don't think it works like that.
No.
So, but it doesn't mean that I don't believe that there isn't something that's trying to pretend to be something.
And I saw UFOs while Lee was dying.
I felt awful. I felt really sick. See, I can say about that actually.
Too many grits.
No. After the the weird thing about that prison thing was it wasn't warm in there. Like it wasn't warm. I was drenched in sweat in there, like proper. Dave was drenched in sweat as well. And the next day, like I had like a cracking headache. I was shivery.
You got a chill then.
I don't know because
it was like ill all day.
It lasted 24 hours. Like I felt awful for 24 hours. I was tired, and I had it referred to me as like paranormal flu. Like you
said to Dave, I feel shit. I feel like I'm coming down with a cold. And he went, no, you got paranormal flu. You'll be fine tomorrow. Sure enough, you were.
Yeah. Amazing. Next day, like I dragged myself because we had like a proper sightseeing day. There was a Gatlinburg we went to. Gatlinburg, Gettysburg, something like that. Gatlinburg. The up in the Smokies, like the touristy area.
Smoky Mountains, yeah.
Yeah. And I had this cracking headache all day, like and I don't get headaches. I never get headaches. And because it was like our last full day there, I did my fucking very best just to enjoy the day I was having. And then, but by the time we got back to Dave's, Ollie and Dave were going to go out and have drinks somewhere, and I was like, "Nah, I'm in bed." I was in bed by 9 o'clock.
I know you believe me but I saw with Dave, I think it was about 7 UFOs, which were just dots in the sky, which I tried to film, and Dave were like, "Why don't you just enjoy them?"
Yeah, because if you're filming with your phone, you're not going to get anything.
What?
I don't. But there's nothing on there. Literally, you might better hear that. You couldn't see shit in the sky. You could hear the aircraft. But out of respect for Dave, and I get the stories that Dave said on the channel before about the people he mixes with, I get why he doesn't want to give locations away now. So does Lee. So out of respect for that, I wouldn't give any. But I couldn't film the UFOs anyway because they were literally just dots in the sky, just moving across so they could. I don't think they were satellites because they was moving too slow. We had night vision goggles, and Lee said the next day, "Did you not think to put it to the phone camera?" I'm like, "Oh my fucking!" And Dave just looked at me and went, "Why didn't we think of that?" But yeah, so many of them going because the sky's so clear there. It's like literally you can see everything. And this certain spot that we were sat at, just looking up. Do you know what though? I'm glad after I had that conversation with Dave, and I didn't think about putting the night vision because through the night vision you could see them. It was just a dot moving through the sky, and it didn't change shape or anything like that. It didn't go in any direction. As long as it wasn't a
triangle, you're good.
But the amount of them, there were about 7 of them throughout the evening that just went straight across very, very slowly, different directions. And this place is over a lab. There is what lab is it? Without giving the lab name, but what type of lab is it? It's
a national lab.
And an energy or something.
Yeah, I was good. Is it not part of the whole atomic energy?
Yeah, and I would just kept thinking, I'm wondering if they're like spy balloons or something that I'm looking at up there because they were moving really slow, like through the sky, but you could see them glowing up, solid. No flashing lights. You could click. There was quite a few airplanes that came across. You could see the lights.
Yeah, the FA.
Yeah, but
lights.
whatever these were, the phone couldn't pick it up because it was that high up. It just couldn't pick. I haven't got like a S23 Ultra, wherever it is. I've got a little iPhone for my hands. A little iPhone 12 mini. But yeah, everything that we got told would happen happened.
That's good.
UFOs.
I'm glad you guys had a good time.
Believing something that's, I don't know if it's ghost, but whatever it is, yeah. But yeah, folks, it's you will see some stuff that's going to come up on the channel. It's got to be put together in the right way. But yeah, it was a good time.
Well, before I go,
we're all done, mate.
Good. Not good, but before I go,
that's it, Stu. You just put a damper on.
I know. I just killed the mood there. Killed the mood. No, just to let folks know, I did a interview with Professor Simon Holland a few weeks ago, where he asked me about how to photograph a UFO. And
for the UFO people, he really did cover the Calvine UFO. He lives in France, doesn't he?
South of France, between Toulouse and Bordeaux.
Is he originally from Scotland?
He grew up in Campbelltown on the Mull of Kintyre, because he talks a lot about, there's a base over there called Machrihanish, which has all sorts of weirdness goes on there. I mean, that's something we should probably talk about one night. But anyway, he's got a channel, Professor Simon Holland. I mean, he's not actually a genuine PhD professor. He just
Which we will link in the description.
Yeah, he just looks like the nutty professor, but he's actually got a 40-year career with the BBC and other organizations, editing video and sound. So obviously that's kind of my wheelhouse. So he came onto my channel to discuss that. But the second part of the interview, he goes really deep into Rendlesham, the Rendlesham Forest, RAF Bentwaters case, because he's heavily involved in research in that. So what I've done is I've taken that element out. I'm going to tweak it a little bit, and we'll get it up on the Alien Addict channel in the next day or so you guys can watch that. And he has said they've got some kind of big announcement coming up to do with Rendlesham, and when they're ready to announce, he said he would come on the channel and do a live on a Friday or a Sunday night, whatever one suits him.
Amazing.
And chat with. He's more than happy to do that now, because before he was a bit hesitant, but I think now that we've had a couple of conversations and stuff like that, he's a good. I like him. He's a good guy.
Oh, he's great. Yeah,
and his channel's good as well. I mean, he does some interesting things on his channel, but his angle is definitely more of the science and physics side of things, rather than we kind of try to keep things in reality, but we do lean towards the more fringe end of things. The woo-woo, yeah.
A little bit.
I think the world's been taken over by a satanic elite, which like follow some sort of interdimensional doctrine. So no, it's not. It's not always grounded.
But anyway, yeah, that video will be up. I'm working on all this week the Bob Lazar documentary. So Ollie was like asking me, "Are you going to make it for the end of the month, or are we going to do July?" I'm going to try. So we'll try and get that out.
The thing is, it's going to be around that sort of time. But if it's not finished and it goes into August, then so be it. I mean, if anybody's a gamer out there, things get delayed a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not always worth the wait either.
A sort of 5-minute teaser trailer, extended trailer up at some point mid-month, and that'll keep everybody ticking over. There's a person, I'm not going to name them just now, but potentially I can get them on for a bit of an interview now. If I can get them on, then that really becomes the backbone of the documentary, because they are very clued up in Bob Lazar. So I'm trying to get them. If I can get them on, yay. But we'll see. We'll see.
Fabulous, Stu. Well, you can find Stu's channel in the description below, people. And we're going to be back to the normal schedule. We'll be doing the next Friday. We'll probably be doing a show Thursday, I think. Lee, will it be a Rockfin?
Thursday night for Rockfin? Yeah.
Yeah,
that will be on Rockfin on Friday, straight after Alien Addict goes off the air. So you don't have to go and listen to any of those other rubbish UFO channels. You can just listen to more of us.
That's the one. Upcoming show on Rockfin. Spoiler alert. There you go.
Ooh, that's a nice thumbnail. That's sexy.
Well, it is, but that was getting in the way. There's the brand.
Also, one of the upcoming Rockfin shows is me and Dave want Ollie to watch the documentary Fall of Cabal. So we're essentially gonna destroy his soul.
Yeah, I'll be watching that.
Be able to watch that live.
That'll be interesting.
But yeah, Roswell, we'll probably return to Roswell in the next few months as this thing progresses, because let's just face it, that's not the end of this. We've just
once they dig something up with that backhoe they've got,
yeah,
which to everyone in the UK is a GCB.
They're obviously the preppiness for something.
It's the best time to be doing like a conspiracy / UFO channel. Joe, do you know what I mean? There surely has been no better time ever to be doing something like this, because there's just always something. There's always.
I'm having a blast now. See, like editing up the channel and just doing different bits and pieces and having like the Bob Lazar thing, and I'm then going to go on once I've done that the Stephen Greer documentary. I'm going back to. I love this. I've just got to make sure I don't forget that I've got to pay the bills as well. But I'm trying to work on that as well.
Absolutely. Speaking of paying the bills, people, check out the merch. It is in the description below. There's t-shirts, designs.
He still hasn't sent me a t-shirt, folks.
I don't have these t-shirts in a box.
Snap.
No.
Yes, I don't. It's Teespring. It's Teespring.
Teespring.
It's Teespring, people.
You'll notice when we do the ghost hunt around the prison. He's got an Alien Addict shirt on for himself.
Nothing for poor Lee.
Nothing for Lee. No, just plain.
This is
all
the old
black
alien,
everything for Lee.
The old alien design. It's the very simple one.
Yeah. Look at this alien design. Oh no, there's not one. Weird.
How many years have you been doing the channel, Lee?
Ooh, 5,
3.
So I should be due a t-shirt or a hoodie by 2030, maybe.
I gave some people a t-shirt,
Well, yeah, no, it must be. It was like because it was like 2017 we started speaking to each other.
Was it?
It was just after because I messaged you and UFO Jesus to come on Must See Audio.
Oh, and I got back to you.
Yeah, and UFO Jesus just left me hanging.
I tell you what, Lee, I'll design us an Alien Addict t-shirt.
That sounds great.
And I'll bang it on the Teespring store.
Guys, I'm over here.
No,
it is cool merchandise. Now go and fucking buy it.
Exactly. There you go.
Right. I promise not to end the broadcast, and I'll catch you all on Friday. Cheers now.
See you later, mate. Good night. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Mind those bugs. Don't bite.
So
definitely would.
Have you like healed since we got? Since
No,
we're back?
it's still completely completely out.
I can't believe it. Like considering the damage that was done, it felt remarkably gentle at the time. He's a big man.
Yeah, I still can't wear boxer shorts.
No.